Good morning, Hank.
Good morning, Jim. How are you?
I'm good, and appreciate you setting in on my sort of inaugural podcast
Okay.
on water. You've been, I think, very instrumental in helping get the word out. I think you were instrumental in the last election of the Groundwater Board. I think you've been also instrumental in helping people understand what's going on in Montgomery County in general when it comes to water. So,
Okay, great.
for that, I appreciate it. I also appreciate you hosting, letting me host this show, and I appreciate you helping me on this first show. What I'd like to do in this first show is just sort of get people grounded on some of the, I believe, what I think are really important things for us to do in Montgomery County water-wise,
Okay.
and for people to know. So, hope to have a lot of guests on
Okay.
as
great.
time goes on to help people understand, and also to give people a platform by which they can put their ideas out there. I mean, if we're going to solve this water problem in Montgomery County, it's not going to be done by one person.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's an important topic, and what's going on in Montgomery County has really been important.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I've been involved. You know, they say that you know, you have a responsibility if you have a platform to take care of what you can. So yeah, I've tried to do everything I can. And I think the Montgomery County Water Level as a podcast is going to be a great show.
Hope so.
And yeah, having guests on and covering the topic and covering all the complexities, because it's a complex topic. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And if we can get people to understand what's happening,
Yeah.
get the community more involved, it's the way to go.
Yeah. So, I want to talk just a little bit first about the complexity issue. And,
Okay.
and I think it's really important for people to understand. It's not just complex from the perspective of, you know, you have cities, you have the county, you have townships, you have private water companies, you have all these entities that are vying for individuals, farmers, businesses that are vying for water. And, you know, it's not that there isn't a lot of water under us. There is. There's literally 1,000 times more water under us, more than that, than we take in any given year. I mean, so we've got a lot of water. The problem is access to it. So some of it's at way deeper levels than others. And so what's happening in the county, one of the things that's happening is, as the county populates, wells want to get closer and closer together.
Sure.
And as the wells get closer, of course, you have to drill deeper to get the water. And then you've also got the political issues that rotate around water. So you've got all these political entities. You got the state of Texas through the Texas Water Development Board and the Texas Water Quality Commission. So you got all of those political subdivisions, and then you've got the county
Right.
subdivision, and you've got the groundwater district. You've got the SJRA.
Harris County.
Harris County is involved in this. The city of Houston is involved.
Right.
The Trinity River Authority is involved. So you've got this whole dog's breakfast of constituencies, and
there's only so much pie to pass around.
that's exactly
And
right.
that's where we ran into
Well,
trouble.
and there's only the fear for me is that nobody takes control of this in a way that assures something that Chapter 36 assures about groundwater, and that is that everybody gets their fair share. Right? So we may come to a place where conservation becomes much more critical and people learn to do with less. I'd like to see that happen. But whether that happens or not in the near future, I don't know. But the reality is, who's going to pick the winners and losers when it comes to water?
Right.
Right? And I don't think that's a good thing. And one thing that's happened in Montgomery County, I think in the last, few years that's been really helpful is the groundwater district went from an appointed board to an elected board. So at least the citizens have a way to speak up and to get their views out and to be represented. So this thing is extremely complex. So, but there are some other things that I just want to get clear to everybody. One thing that's really important is water's going to get more expensive, no matter what happens.
Yeah, that's coming.
So
I knew that was coming.
right. So how do we deal with that expense? Does everybody chip in? Do people who are using excess pay more? Do we have an income tax like system? How do we go about making sure that whatever we do is equitable and fair? So I'm not trying to solve that problem now,
Right.
but that is going to be a problem because the cost of water, depending on how we do it, could get extremely expensive for some people and stay cheap for others.
And that problem needs to be addressed before we get there.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the things that I've noticed, at least in Montgomery County and other counties actually, is that problems usually aren't addressed until they're already astronomical problems.
Exactly.
And they have to be addressed. And if we can get there before then, I think we'll be in a lot better shape.
Well, the solutions that come about when you wait for the catastrophe to occur are not the best solutions in the long run. I mean, we know that.
Right, yeah, because you're
If you wait until you've had somebody declare war on you to start preparing for war, it puts you in a totally different place than if you've gotten prepared for it before it happens.
Right.
And I look at this sort of, it's going to be a war in the end if we don't do something about it.
I agree.
So that's one issue. I also believe that we are going to get to a place where there's a finite amount of water. In other words, it's
or
not
a finite amount of accessible
water. That's a better way to say it.
Right.
So under the county, USGS says we've got 183 million acre feet. Well, nobody wants to suck half of that out at one time.
Right. Yeah, you're going to cause geological problems.
You cause geological problems. We know that. Okay. How big or how bad, I don't know.
Right.
But so we know that pumping groundwater out of some of the aquifers for sure causes subsidence. Now, whether that subsidence is really a problem at the elevation we are or not, I'm not ready to say yet.
Right.
Right? But the reality is you're going to have a lot of people out there who don't want us to cause an excessive amount of subsidence, even though we're extremely high above sea level. Okay, so...
Right, and that just points to flooding concerns.
It does, and maybe the flooding concerns, if we really study it, doesn't look to me like subsidence is the big contributor to the flooding. The big contributor...
I wouldn't think it's the largest contributor.
Not by a long shot, I don't believe. I believe the flooding concerns is we're waiting until it becomes a real problem to solve it. So all these neighborhoods have been built on top of each other.
It's displacement.
They're draining on top of each other. We just can't get the water out of here fast enough.
Yeah, it's
and then the people in Harris County below us don't want us draining the water down on them any faster than we are.
That's understandable.
Because they're not prepared for it either. So I believe flooding is another whole issue that needs to be taken on. And here's what scares me, is that flooding has been used as a political football for converting the county to surface water prematurely and being done the way it was done. And so what happens is, do we siphon off the resources that we could be using to really study this water issue and make solutions? Are we doing that? Are we siphoning off those resources, trying to go after subsidence?
Yeah, I agree, and I think a lot of that those flooding concerns and such have become political hypotheses.
Yes.
So it's an educated guess, but it's still a guess.
Yes.
And we're not in the business, or we shouldn't be in the business of guesswork in this county anymore.
Well, we have been for the last 20 years.
Science.
Yeah, we have been for the last 20 years.
Right.
When I look back at the history of the groundwater district and the history of SJRA, the one thing they could have cooperated on that they didn't was getting the science.
Yeah, and that's the most important factor.
And they've never put an extensometer in up here in Montgomery County, ever. Anybody. Why?
And what does an extensometer do?
The extensometer will tell us whether the subsidence that's occurring, one, is coming out of which aquifer.
Okay.
In other words, which aquifer is compacting. So subsidence is just merely the ground surface sinking as the levels below them compact,
Okay.
right? So if you put a piece of cardboard on top of a sponge,
Mm-hmm.
and you start sucking the air out of that sponge, as that sponge contracts,
Right.
that piece of cardboard is going to follow it. So think
Mm-hmm.
of the cardboard as the land. Well, some aquifers, you take the water out of them, they compact. Other aquifers we have no idea about. We think that maybe they've already compacted because of the amount of weight that's already on them from the other aquifers above them. So could we?
Gravitational forces and things like that even. I mean,
We-
some subsidence could be a natural occurrence.
It is. We know that's a fact too.
Okay.
But, and then, so we don't have the science right now to know which aquifers we can take more water out of.
And so the job of the extensometer is to tell us how much subsidence we have and over what period and
How
what
much
cost.
compaction we have.
Okay, so it's demi compaction.
Is the actual clays and sands in that aquifer squeezing
Okay.
and compacting? If those things compact, the Earth's surface is going to move with it.
Right along with it. Okay.
So compaction's what you're talking about. What the extensometer will tell us is, as we increase pumping in this aquifer, are we seeing, as you remove the water, which is the buoyancy factor,
Right.
are the clays squeezing together?
Mhm.
It'll tell us that, whether that's happening or not.
And we need that science.
We need that science. So Lone Star is working at that really hard right now.
Okay.
The extensometers are so prohibitively expensive they can't afford to put them in on their own. But the first step that we're doing is we are going to take core samples,
Okay.
and we're going to take them out of the aquifers that we don't know anything about, and we're going to send them off to a lab, and they're going to compact. They're going to put the same kinds of pressures on them that would be put on them if we were taking the water out. And they're
Okay.
going to see if those clays compact. So we're going to get a really good real life simulation of what happens in those aquifers. That's right now.
And that should be pretty accurate, actually.
Very accurate.
Yeah.
It's very accurate. But it's a snapshot in time.
Mm-hmm.
What we want is something that tells us across time what's happening. So it's easy to simulate if you remove X amount of water at one time. How much water are we actually going to be able to remove
Mm-hmm.
and still have that, and still know what the compaction
Right.
is? So the extensometer gives us long-term data. Core samples will tell us whether we can take more right now.
And with that data, we'll be able to create a curve that'll let us know how much we can pump out of the ground, how much surface water we
Yes,
need to introduce,
yes. So let me give
and
you
how
an
we can
example.
solve the problem over a period.
Yeah, so let me give you an example. We're pumping 75,000 acre feet. Probably not that much, but out of the
Okay.
county. We have science that tells us right now that we think we can pump 97,000.
Okay.
Okay, so let's assume we got 25,000 acre feet we can play with right now. Let's assume we look at the growth of the county, and in the next 6 years, we're going to need that 25,000 acre feet.
Yeah, we should have some pretty good water usage data already.
Well, we do. So we
Okay.
know, we actually know at Lone Star what the average household will use,
Okay,
right?
that's good.
Now, that varies a little by the size of the home that they're
Sure.
going to buy. You know, do they have a swimming pool?
Mhm.
But we've got a pretty good average built in, which is accurate enough for doing this kind of work. The thing we don't know is you've got businesses that have huge variation in the amount of water they use.
Mhm.
So let's assume one of the soft drink companies wants to build a big plant here.
Okay,
The amount of water they're going to use is astronomical,
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
right? So how much of that acre footage is going to be taken up by those kinds of businesses?
Mhm.
Somebody comes in with a machine shop and employs 1,000 people in a machine shop. That's not nearly the amount of water that a manufacturer like Samsung,
Mhm.
that has to use.
Or even a
huge-
car wash.
Think about how many car washes have you seen being built?
A lot.
Right.
It's
So,
a
but
popular business.
here's a really cool thing. So I lived in California for a long time, and in California, most of those car washes have to recycle their own water. So they have some filtration systems
Okay.
where they actually use gray water to wash the cars with. It's not gray, but I mean,
I got
you wouldn't drink it, but it's crystal clear as far as clarity. It doesn't have the some of the stuff you need to do to be able to drink it. But so there's a lot of things that can be done that way. But still, right now here, I don't know that car washes recycle their water at all. I have no idea. But my point is, a car wash would use a heck of a lot more water than a daycare center, right? And let's assume it employs the same number of people. So we don't know what the business side of that actually is going to look at. Now, we can look back and say the county over the last 10 years has added this many residential taps, and with it came this amount of business, and it used that much. So we're not completely in the dark, but it's not nearly as predictive. But let's go back to the original. Let's assume that 25,000 acre feet will take us 10 years.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, the 75,000 we're using now has carried us a long way.
Right. Took us X amount of years to get there.
Right.
Okay.
Now, that takes us to the 97. But let's assume we do the science and we find out we can get another 50,000 acre feet without any dramatic changes. All of a sudden now, we're 25 years out before we need, not 10, we're 25 out before we really start to run into some walls.
Yeah, and I think what people need to understand is how critical the time factor is. Because if you do have 25 years out, well, now we have time to create and build infrastructure.
Yes, and the infrastructure can be built much more cheaply today.
Oh yeah.
Than it can be built if we wait the 25 years. And we can also plan for example, you're going to need right-of-ways if you're going to run pipelines. You're going to have right-of-ways. If we wait 25 years, a lot of those right-of-ways are going to be gone.
Oh, that's for sure.
You're going to have big buildings built on top where it would be the most ideal place to put the pipeline. So it allows us, as you said, to start thinking right now. The problem is I don't see anybody in charge of doing that.
Okay.
Can you think of any agency that's in charge of making sure Montgomery County not only has an adequate supply of water, but that water can be delivered or accessed by all the people who need them wherever they are in the county?
Yeah, I don't think there's an organization that I know of that would handle that.
No.
We need one.
We need one. So I think that, there probably are some organizations who could take it on that are already in place, but I don't see any willingness for them to do that.
And there may be some organizations that could take it on, but I think the issue that we might face is we're going to need an organization that also not only is willing to take that on and be able to manage water for the county, but they're going to need some authority as well, because we're going to need to make sure that a lot of our water isn't leaving and going to Harris County and going to Angelina County and places like that.
Well, the problem we've got right now is the state law won't allow you to do that.
It won't?
No.
Okay,
so state law says basically that I can export water if I own it. So if I own, let's assume I live over here between us and between here and Splendora and I don't know, Conroe.
Okay.
And I buy me a 5,000 acre tract, or I buy me a bunch of tracts, and I've got 5,000 acres.
Okay.
I own that water below that 5,000 acres. What I do with it is my business. Now, the groundwater district does have the authority to charge an export fee.
Okay.
Right? So if Hank says, I've got this 5,000 acres, I want a permit for 10,000 acre feet a year, and I'm going to sell it to Harris County. Harris County's willing to buy it from me for, I don't know, $3 a 1,000 gallons.
Okay.
So I'm going to sell it to them. And what we have the authority to do is charge an export fee on that.
Okay.
Right. And Lois Colcourse just introduced some legislation to allow groundwater districts to up that export fee. And I don't remember the numbers she put on it, but enough to mitigate the effects that would have on the people around them.
Okay.
But that's just the effects of, do I have to deepen my well or whatever. That water is still gone.
Right.
But you got to remember who owns it. So what we're caught sort of between is we got people who own their water, just like they own
Yeah,
their
you don't want to
water.
violate property rights, for sure.
Can't do it, so how do we do that?
Mhm.
So one way you could do that is if somebody says, I'm gonna do an export project, it'd be really easy for the county to say, we'll make you a deal, we'll pay you a penny more than anybody else will for you to keep the water here. We'll utilize it. That'll be our next utilization project. So there are ways, I think, to deal with the private
sure.
property thing, but once again, and I think you made this point really well, who's gonna oversee that? Who's gonna be the person who makes that decision?
So would an
Or the
organization like that be created through legislation, or would it be created just through, how would we go about doing that?
I think it's gotta be legislation, and the reason I think it's gotta be legislation is you've got Chapter 36, the Texas Water Code, that you can't, only the legislators can monkey with something that affects that,
Okay.
right? It's like that export fee I was talking about. So you said, boy, our water's going to Harris, somebody could sell our water to Harris County. It's not our water. It's not our water. It's the person who owns the land's water.
Right.
So it's really hard to keep all that stuff straight in your head, for me anyway, is I want to think of it as our water in Montgomery County. So I've sort of made that statement, right?
Right.
So Montgomery County does have a finite amount of water. We have a lot of it, but we don't have the authority to tell people they can't sell it to somebody else if they want to.
Okay.
But we would have the ability, I believe, to utilize that water rather than, and that's why you don't have any export projects in Montgomery County right now, is we don't have a bunch of people around us except the city of Houston who would love to buy our water. I mean, that's basically the only people that would want our
Right.
water if we'd be willing to sell it to them. But take, for example, the city of San Antonio. They buy water, a lot of water, from a project called Vista Ridge up in Burleson County, where a bunch of people put together a bunch of water rights on some land.
Yeah, I've heard of this
deep,
ridge.
and they pump water 143 miles to the city of San Antonio and sell it to them. Now, the farmers who are selling that water are tickled to death. They're making money hand over fist selling water. And those farmers, for the most part, they're not too worried about it because it's coming out of the deep aquifer. They have to drill their well a little deeper or whatever, no big deal. They're making a lot of money. There is quite an uproar around those well fills, though, the people who aren't involved, because it is having impact on their wells.
Oh, I'm sure.
So that's the reason for the export project, I believe, for Lois Colcourt's desire to put the additional fees on the export, is so that they can go to those people around there and assist them in drilling their wells deeper.
Okay.
So, and the people that are making pay for it are the people who are selling the water.
Right. And that's
So-
the way it should be.
Yeah, so you want to sell the water, okay, you can sell it, but you got to put aside enough so that if you impact somebody else, you can help them out. And I got mixed feelings about that. I don't know, but the reality is, they do own the water. They can sell it. And in one way, one part of me says those people who were bordering those well fills, their fair share when there were no wells there clearly was bigger than their fair share is now. So, and some of those wells are 50 years old, right? So they're old wells. They were really shallow. They were really, whatever. Is the expectation that because you drilled your well 50 years ago, the next guy can't access their water today? And then you turn that around and say the guy who's accessing it today, are you going to let them impact the guy who's had it for 50 years?
Right.
So this is, when you said complex a while ago, I'm telling you, this is a complex situation. And in the end, everyone, I believe, is going to be a little bit dissatisfied.
Yeah, I think
let me-
there will be some people who are adversely affected. But I do think because of the layout of Montgomery County and the fact that portions of it are still quite rural, there'll be some happy people out there too.
There will be, but it's coming at them.
Yeah.
I mean, those days, you know, we have people in adjoining counties who would love to see us be limited in the amount of groundwater we can pump, because it means they get to pump more because the aquifer doesn't care where that county line is.
Right, it doesn't know.
The problem they don't realize is if we can't come up with a model for solving these problems, they're gonna be right where we are. They're just gonna be 10 years behind us or 5 years. I don't know what I mean, I can tell you Waller County is on the upswing like you can't believe. The number of homes slated to be built there in the next 5 years is astronomical. So
Yeah,
they're gonna be running into the same problems that we're running into in Montgomery County. And we still have time to do this and do it right.
Mm-hmm.
But my worry is I don't see anybody excited about it.
Well, and I think that's just because of lack of education. And that's why we're doing this. I mean,
Yeah.
This will help.
I'm worried
So
that
let me ask you this. If a governing body that
Yeah.
would oversee the process of trying to solve these problems, obtain science, work on subsidence projects, would this be like another political subdivision? Would it be a taxing authority? I mean, would they be funded? Would they need to be funded?
So absolutely. So whoever this is gonna have to have the authority to collect money to build infrastructure with. Infrastructure, if we waited on the county of Montgomery and the city of Conroe and the city of Shenandoah to say, hey, let's get together and put a pipeline out here close so all three of us could tap into it. And once we get it out here, kind of in a neutral area, but equidistant between all of us, then we'll spend our own individual. If they wait on that, that's not gonna happen. So somebody is going to have to collect some money and be able to put this infrastructure in place. But it needs to be done sanely, and it needs to be done by a group that the citizens feel like truly represent their best interest.
Sure.
Because I want to go back and clarify something, because I said everybody's going to be a little bit unhappy. I believe that the people in the rural parts of the county, as well as the people, are going to end up having to pay something. Everybody, if we're going to do this, that's the one thing that the one place I think the estuary missed the boat. When Lone Star and Estuary colluded and tried to force this surface water conversion, is they decided only large volume groundwater users were going to pay. Right? So if you take the entire county, you take every individual who's on there. Are you on your own well here?
No.
So you got Splendora water.
Splendora water.
But you don't have to go far before you have people on their own wells, right?
My neighbor behind me owns a well.
All right. So if you look at the amount of population that's got their own wells and they're furnishing their own water and whatever, and you say what proportion of the population is that compared to the more densely populated areas who either have a municipality or a private water company?
Yeah, see, that's a number I'd like to know.
Well, I don't exactly know what that number is either, but I think it would shock people how many people in Montgomery County are on their own wells.
Yeah, it's a big. I bet
It's a big number.
Yeah.
I don't think it's 50% of the county, but I think it's a big number.
But it's pretty close.
So
I bet it's over 35.
Oh, I know I believe it's over 35. Let's say it's 60-40. 60% of the county lives in places where they get some kind of water supply,
Municipal water supply.
or
Yeah.
private water company. Doesn't
Okay.
matter. Same thing. You're pooling. That would be 325 or 50,000 on some kind of water supply system, and another almost 300,000 have their own wells. And so so we know that if we keep poking holes in the ground for subdivisions, these are big wells,
Right.
and we space them properly, we're either gonna run out of places to put subdivisions, or we're gonna start adversely impacting people's wells. So if in fact we could build a surface water or some sort of alternative water, even if it's imported from Liberty County. There's some wells over there right now waiting for somebody to hook up to them and put a pipeline in. They're big old wells. I forgot what they call them, 4-star wells.
We're not that far from Liberty County.
That's my point. But so that's the other thing. I'm not making a decision about what kind of water supplies we ought to try to go after. San Antonio loves importing water from, maybe we go up north of us somewhere and somebody puts in some sort of an export project to Montgomery County. That'd still be cheaper than building reservoirs and converting surface water. But I guess my point is, everybody pays the county taxes, and they pay the county for the county services like roads and right-of-ways and fire protection and all kinds of stuff.
Right.
So even if you're out in the county and your house catches on fire, the county has these ESDs or whatever they call them,
ESDs,
and they'll show up and put your house out. Now they may not show up time to save it, but they're going to show up, and so we pay for that. All of us pay for that. Well, is that a vehicle? Is it that the county collects the money for this? I don't know, but somebody has got to be able to collect money and
well, I think a lot of that revenue comes straight out of property taxes, and I know that people are freaked out about property taxes.
They are, and I don't blame them.
But I do think that I don't think we're capped on sales taxes.
Right.
And so I think we could add a little bit to the sales tax, and believe it or not, sales tax it's a large amount of revenue.
Yeah, I looked at when we're still, I'm still very interested in this water plant over here. I think this water plant holds a lot of good value for the county. Okay. I think the state allowed this thing to happen too early, and they allowed the way.
But it's there. We should take advantage of it.
Yeah, but it's there, okay. But the way it was being paid for is the problem.
I agree.
So I looked at, what if you took the sales tax revenue in Montgomery County, suppose you added 1/2 cent per dollar sales tax. You could pay this water plant off completely, pay all the debt, which makes this water plant now extremely affordable. You could pay that off in 4 years.
Oh yeah,
with 1/2 cent.
Easily.
And let's assume
and that tax base is constantly growing because of our growth.
It is, and I figured this at the population we are at right now. But let's assume you put in and I don't blame people. My trust in government's pretty low. I'm an elected official, and I'm going to tell you right now, the last people I trust, besides used car salesmen, are politicians.
I understand.
Okay, so.
Actually, I trust politicians. I don't trust the political process.
Yeah, but here's the deal: politicians fall into the political process.
Absolutely.
We have some great ones. So
yeah, we do.
I'm going to tell you, Will Metcalf. That's as straight up a guy as you're ever going to meet. Some people don't like some of the things he does. I probably don't like them all either. But I will tell you one thing about that man. If he tells you the sun's shining, you don't need an umbrella. Period.
That's true.
I think Brandon Creighton is pretty straight up guy. He operates different than Will does. He's in the Senate. He's not in the House. Brandon Creighton has supported us. Brandon Creighton has not lied to us at all. I can't.
Ernest Bells is our new state rep for this area.
That is exactly right. And I'm hearing good things about Ernest.
He's a good guy. He's straight up too.
And Cecil Bell has been extremely helpful. Now he's way over on the other side, like Ernest is. Cecil has been in this fight with us all the way. Lois Colcourse had some great ideas about oversight for the River Authority, and I thought she was very helpful in calming Senator Perry when we testified. She's just a very bright lady.
She did great.
She did great. I'm all in. And I think Paul Betancourt is a good guy. I don't know Paul. Paul's the one I know the least. Are Bales and Paul. I don't really know them, but I haven't seen them do anything that causes me to worry about him. Our ex-senator, who's no longer part of this, Senator Nichols, good man, great. He's the one who started this ball rolling of stopping this whole mess. So we've got some great legislators, but they're swimming in a sea where it's really difficult sometimes to get things done. And
absolutely,
just like us, we have unrealistic expectations sometimes of what they can do. But the one thing I do know by watching Will is when you get to a point where you've had enough, you can make a stand if you've got credibility. Will Metcalf did that. And so, but the reality here is, where I was going was, people don't trust politicians. So getting a sales tax approved or getting anything approved, The reason people don't trust them is, what I would like to do is get a 10-year or an 8-year, I don't care, 0.5% sales tax that's sunsetted, passed, so that we could buy the plant, pay the debt of the plant off. Although I do believe the state of Texas ought to throw in half, because they signed up for this. They did not do. So let's assume this, the state of Texas pitched in $200 million, and Montgomery County somehow or another pitched in the other $200 million and acquired ownership of that.
Okay.
Then let's assume we did a 0.5% sales tax for 4 years, which pays off our $200 million and puts $200 million in the bank to build infrastructure. And then as that infrastructure gets built, the cities and the county, and we don't use it to build one water system to Magnolia. We use it to do nothing but put raw water across the county in different places where somebody can tap into it then. So if all Splendora had to do
themselves,
if all Splendora had to do was build a 1-mile pipeline and build their own little purification plant, all of a sudden it's very affordable for the citizens of Splendora to have treated water.
Right.
So there's ways to do this, but we got to.
It can even be funded through water bills, believe it or not.
It can.
If the GRP was gone because this came together,
Yeah.
you know, then water bills would already be reduced. You could pick some of that back up with an additional tax or whatever you wanted to call it to create this entity. And yeah, I mean, that'd be the way to go.
Yeah, and yeah, look, a GRP has got a bad name in Montgomery County because of the way it was done, but a GRP simply is a way to collect money to pay for something like that. I mean, they called it a groundwater reduction program. Got it. We're going to reduce groundwater, meaning we're going to put you on surface. They could have called it a surface water conversion program.
Sure.
I don't care what you call it, but it's got to be done equitably if we're going to do it. It can't be done the way they did it. I don't think. It could have been, but we got to build it as we need it.
Right. But I do believe in the average guy out there, the average voter. And I think that if they're educated and they understand the situation, they don't mind paying a little extra. If they know they're going to get something for it, if they know it's worth their while, especially if you can convince them that their children and grandchildren will benefit, yeah, they'll throw in a couple extra cents.
Absolutely. That's what I mean. Everybody is willing to be a little bit dissatisfied. Meaning my taxes may go up a little, or I may have to pay a little more for that water, but I'm going to have it. And I'll tell you, this county, if you want to stop growth in this county, don't do anything. We're going to come to a place where it just, that'll be it. You just can't.
Oh, I agree.
And so.
And I think we're actually coming to that place, not only with water in Montgomery County, but with several other things as well. You know, roads and drainage, everything. So
I think drainage, I think that's another area that needs somebody.
You see, I'm a proponent of a flood control district.
Yeah.
And I think that if we could create a dual purpose district, maybe. One side would handle flood control while the other side would handle
water.
That would handle water. You know, and how to dole it out, how to manage it, water management.
Yeah.
You know. And those two working together would probably be one of the smartest things we could do, because they both deal honestly with the same type of thing.
Yeah.
While you're creating drainage, you can create a pipeline coming in.
Well, yeah, and look, the way you deal with drainage is going to have, I believe, a lot to do with your ability to recycle water.
Absolutely.
Right. So I think water recycling, reuse or reclamation or whatever you want to call it, is probably a bigger source of water and cheaper, maybe even, than surface water.
Right, and we already have that technology, so it's not like we have to develop it.
Exactly.
We have it, we just need to figure out a better way.
Yeah, Porter Sud has a big water reclamation they built. They spent $8 million on it.
Right.
And right now, unfortunately, they don't need it. Right? So it's sitting there. They spent the money for it, and then because of all this stuff, they got left holding the bag. I feel really bad for them that they got duped. And but I also believe that some of the bigger municipalities, some of the bigger areas like the Woodlands and Conroe and even Splendora, you know, there's a gold mine in recycling water.
Mm-hmm.
Car washes, irrigation, all of those things are I mean, think
Sure.
about the amount of water we just treat and let go to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not going anywhere. It's making the loop, but that loop's an expensive loop.
Yeah. Yeah, and that loop takes a while for it to happen too.
It does. So it doesn't happen overnight either. And same thing with water getting back into the aquifer. So every drop of water that we don't have to produce, either from a surface source or from the ground, is a drop of water we don't have to produce, and extends our cheaper, if you will, water sources further out into the future, because reclaiming water is cheaper for the average citizen, and they don't see that one. That's the one we don't really see. So let's assume we make a car wash start recycling their water. The cost of a car wash goes up by 15, 20 cents, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You can choose to spend that money or not,
Right.
right? So it's not a tax being levied on you. That's a true usage tax.
Right.
Same thing with golf courses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once you tell the golf courses, okay, boys and girls, you have to recycle.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to use recycled water here, and you're going to have to pay for that. Now, the cost of a round of golf goes up $3, but the only people paying for it then are the golfers, the people that actually use it. And so it tends to be an easier one to do,
Yeah, it's not
because
so
all you
painful.
need is a regulation
Mm-hmm.
to do it. And I'm not believe me, I'm not a fan of more regulation for regulation's sake, but
Where it's needed, it's needed.
where it's needed, it's needed. I mean, it's the reason we have laws against murder.
Right.
You know,
I agree.
so I'm all about that.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what's upcoming on the show. So I know you're going to have guests. And so we're talking about hydrogeologists, or I mean.
Yeah, I'd like to bring on a couple of good hydrogeologists to talk about some of this more complex stuff and maybe simplify it.
Okay, that would be great.
The other one is we have a big untapped source of water in this county called the Catahoula Aquifer.
The deepest. That's the deepest.
It's the deepest one, and it's going to require in a lot of places either cooling or desalinization.
Okay.
So I want to bring some.
Maybe both.
And maybe, well, in some places, absolutely.
Okay.
But, you know, even further south, like in northern Harris County, it's hot. The Catahoula's hot, it's deep, and it's salty, but it may be a cheaper source of water to clean that up than it is to find another surface reservoir or do whatever has to be done. So
Right.
that water's there, and it's accessible.
Mm-hmm.
What's the cost of it? And then I want to bring on somebody who can talk about the cost of converting the surface water versus deepening the wells.
Okay. That's a good idea.
Yeah, because, see, that was one thing that got totally missed in this original surface water conversion plan, is I got notes from one of the hydrogeologists who was involved back then, a good guy, I think, really seemed to be a smart guy if I read his stuff right, John Seifert,
Okay.
who was asked to do that study. So what is the conversion cost? So we're telling everybody in Montgomery County, we're running out of water, everybody's gonna have to deepen their well, it's gonna cost you a fortune. How much is a fortune? What do you mean when you say that? How much money are you? So they charged him with doing that study. He did a preliminary run at it, and when he presented the results, he was shut down. Don't do that. Stop that.
Okay.
Now, I don't know, the paranoid part of me says that was not gonna look good.
Right.
And I have seen, and I'm not smart enough to talk about it right now, but I have seen numbers that indicate it's a heck of a lot cheaper to drop your well 500 feet than it is to pay for $1 billion worth of surface water plant, debt service, and M&O over the next 40 years. Every well could
I would
be.
think so.
So then it becomes not a subsidence issue, it becomes how deep can we get water? How far can we go? And we know that like the Ogallala Aquifer and some of those other places, they're pumping water from way deep. You go out to Arizona, those people are pumping water 2,000 and 3,000 feet.
Oh, I bet they have to. Yeah.
Well, and it's still cheaper than building
Right.
a new reservoir and
Right.
trying to do all of that. So I'd like to bring somebody on to talk about what those costs really are.
Okay.
And what's interesting to me is, can we regulate in a way, and we're trying to do this at Lone Star now,
Mm-hmm.
so that we protect the little guy in the shallow aquifer and force the bigger, more distributed costs, like, you know, like I've got a private water supplier who says to me, I want to drill a 500-foot well over there, I'd like to have 500 gallons a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And we look around and we say, well, you can't, I'm sorry. You have 5 private wells within 1,000 feet of you.
Mm-hmm.
And doing a hydrogeologic report tells us you're going to impact those wells.
Right. So you got to go deeper.
Either you I'll give you 300 gallons a minute,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't give you 5.
Okay.
Or, if you can't make do on 300, go down another 500 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's going to cost me an extra $100,000. Okay. I'm not telling you you can't have your water.
Mm-hmm.
That's private property. I'm just telling you you can't take it from where you're taking it at the rate you're wanting to take it, because now the fair share deal comes into account.
Okay.
So we're trying to balance both of those. So I'd like to have somebody who can give people a sense of, when do we need
Mm-hmm.
surface water based on cost.
Okay.
So if groundwater starts to be $8 a thousand, and we can do surface water for $7.50, we're going to do surface water. I
Sure.
think. I mean, it would make
I
sense.
would think so.
But I don't know what that number. I don't know what those numbers are. So I'd like to get somebody in to do that. I'd love to get some maybe some city council members from the bigger
Okay.
cities in to come in and say, hey, here's what our plan is, or here's what we're worried about, or here's our ideas about this. Because I really want to advance this dialogue. I don't want the wrong people, and I don't know who those are. I'm not, you know, to grab this thing and
Mm-hmm.
do something like was done before.
Well, and it could be somebody from the outside to do that.
Come
So,
in,
yeah, we need somebody
absolutely,
local.
absolutely. And, you know, then the last group of people, and I don't mean last, I mean somebody else, I don't know if they'll do it, but I'd love to get our legislators in here.
That'd be awesome.
For
I don't
this-
see why they wouldn't. I think that their biggest hurdle would, again, be education, but
Yeah,
that maybe this would be the right platform to begin to educate them
Yeah.
and interest them and build their level.
and I'd like for them to weigh in on what their ideas are. What
Mhm.
could the state, how could the state help this
Right.
issue?
And how can we create
Yes,
our own governing body that
Yes.
will oversee
Yes.
water and
yeah. So I'd like to get
they'd be able
some
to
of those
help with
guys in. I'm gonna invite everybody. I wanna hear from everybody. I was down at Porter Sud earlier in the week,
that. Mhm.
last week, meeting with them. Great group of folks. I mean,
Right.
I like them, and they're helping us. By the way, I want to do a shout out to them.
Okay.
They're going to give us a place to do our first compaction.
Oh wow.
Really, yeah,
That's
they're
great.
furnishing the site. They gave us
Mhm.
maps. They're going to allow us to put our little monitoring well, and they
That's
really
cool.
are being cooperative.
Thanks a lot there, Porter Side. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, now, to my surprise, and I'm really glad about it, SJRA is stepping up to the plate and trying to help us. I've got a meeting with them on the 17th of July. They have 2 or 3 locations that they'd be willing to let us do in the woodlands.
That's awesome.
And so that's to me, that's a great first step in cooperating. For us to cooperate in a way that's good for everybody. And
Yeah.
so another shout out to Ed Shackelford at the SJRA. He's the one who, I was at the GRP meeting
Great.
talking, and he said, I'll get a hold to you later. Well, and by golly, he did.
That's good.
Yeah, so
That's a nice olive branch. Thank you.
it is, I'm telling you, we are not, I want everybody to know, I don't have anything against the SJRA,
Right.
right? And in fact, the poor people sitting on the board now, and all the people that work there, most of them weren't there when this whole thing got started and
Yeah, they just got handed to
they
them.
just got
Yeah.
it handed to
I
them.
understand.
And here's what I'm looking for. Are they willing to really sit down and say, how do we fix this thing? How do we restructure it or do whatever? And I'm hoping this is an indication that
that there's some willingness. That's awesome.
that maybe the problem, and once again, I hate to say this, was the problem the existing general manager. And, or maybe the fact that it got to the point where he felt like he had to step aside says, okay, this is serious, we really need to get off our rigid position and see if we can all find a way to make this a winner for everybody.
Right.
I hate win-win.
And I've noticed what happens a lot of times is in situations like this, you get so far dug in and you're so entrenched that sometimes you can't find your way out. And the best way to do it is just extricate yourself from that. And
yeah, the oil companies figured that out long ago.
oh yeah.
It's about every 5 or 6 or so years, they just change everybody out at the top because they get entrenched in their thinking and they get entrenched in their relationships. And if you want to get out a clean sheet of paper and do something new, it's easier just to put a new group of people in. Yeah. And I think we saw some of that also in the fact that we went from an appointed board at Lone Star to an elected board. I think you see that. I think there's whole new thinking. I think there's a desire to get science, and there wasn't a desire before. And I'm not speaking for the board. I'm just speaking for myself. And I want to make that disclaimer. I'm not the board on this show. I'm me, Joe Q. Citizen. That's who I am.
Okay.
I have a lot of information because of what I do, but I have become highly interested in solving this problem for the county. I have grandkids, great-grandkids living here now, and I really would not like to leave them with this one more problem. They're going to have enough problems going forward to solve, and if we could fix this one, I'd be happy.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for having me on the first pilot show.
You bet.
It's fantastic.
Well, you've probably done more. I mean, I've been on here how many times?
A few times.
A few times. Some of the private water owners have been here. Some of the politicians have been here. Some of the people who ran for the Lone Star Board have been here.
Right.
Everybody had really good dialogue, I thought. So, and I don't believe there's anybody more interested in solving this than you are either.
Okay.
I really get that sense that Hank
I'd like to see it.
wants to give something back to the community that he grew up in and the county he grew up in, and so I thought it'd be great. And also, you're way more experienced at this podcast media stuff than I am, and so I appreciate you helping me kick off this original one. And next show, we're going to have I don't know who it is yet. I got 2 or 3 people lined up, but I'm going to choose somebody. We're going to have a really interesting guest next time.
Great. Look forward to it.
Yep. Thanks, Hank.
All right. Thanks so much.